Today, we're digging into something that, on the surface, seems like a no-brainer, making workplaces fair for people of all ages. But what happens when the very policies we create to help actually end up hiding a much bigger, more complicated problem? All right, let's get into it. So in the world of diversity and inclusion, there's this core belief, right? It's the idea that if we just make people aware of a bias, like ageism, then we've made progress. The logic feels solid. You see the problem, you fix the problem. And this is the thinking that fuels tons of awareness campaigns and training seminars. It sounds great in theory, but what if raising awareness doesn't actually work the way we think it does? What if, in some situations, it just makes the problem harder to spot? That's the real mystery we're unpacking today. And the first clue is locked inside one very strange number. And here it is, negative 0.3210. It doesn't look like much, I know, but this number, this is the thread that unravels the whole story. It comes from a study on how people perceive ageism, and it hints at our basic assumption about awareness might be, well, completely backward. So what does this number actually tell us? It's a correlation, which is just a statistical way to show a link between two things. This study in Ukraine found a reliable connection between people who really value order and rules, what researchers call a blue value system, and whether they even noticed ageism in the first place. That negative sign is everything. It means the more someone valued that orderly system, the less likely they were to report seeing any ageism. But here's the kicker. It wasn't that ageism went away, it's that people stopped seeing it. And that right there is the heart of it. A policy or an awareness campaign doesn't necessarily get rid of an age-based hierarchy. It just forces it underground. The old structure, the one based on seniority and who gets excluded, it's still there. It's just learned how to become invisible. Okay, to really get why this happens, we need a quick decoder ring. It's this concept of value systems. You can think of them as these invisible operating systems running in the back of our minds. They shape what we care about, what we prioritize. For some, it's all about order and following the rules. For others, it's about winning and individual achievement. And for others, it's about power. These systems completely change how we see the exact same thing. And that's the key to this whole puzzle. So let's imagine we roll out a new age-inclusive policy. To someone with a blue system who values tradition, getting rid of seniority doesn't feel fair. It feels like chaos. It's disrespectful to experience. Now, for an orange system, which is all about results, this new policy is just bureaucratic red tape getting in the way of performance. And for a red system, which is all about power, the new fuzzy rules are just an opportunity, a new ambiguity to exploit for their own gain. See, the same exact policy triggers three totally different and totally negative reactions. So how does the hierarchy actually hide? Well, it happens in this really dangerous three-step process. First, the old way of doing things, the seniority ladder, it doesn't just disappear. Second, it just re-encodes itself. Instead of age, the new way to signal status is by being the best at performing compliance. Talking to talk. And finally, the actual exclusion just keeps happening, only now it's wearing a clever disguise, using the language of the policy to hide itself. And this has some really awful real-world consequences. Your HR team is looking at the numbers, seeing everyone's completed the training and they're reporting amazing progress. But behind the scenes, nothing's changed. Managers learn to play the game. They optimize for what looks good, not what actually makes a difference. And maybe the most dangerous part of all, the people who are still being left out. Their silence is mistaken for success. The system thinks the problem is solved when it's just gotten quieter. You can actually map out how quickly this goes wrong. In the first month, leadership is basically blind. They see people complying and think it's working. By month 3, any new fixes are totally missing the point because they're treating symptoms, not the hidden disease. Fast forward to month 6, and you've got this quiet, systemic resentment bubbling up. People feel the disconnect, and by 9 months, forget it. Trust in leadership, trust in their policies, it is completely collapsed. This quote just nails it. The silence that these flawed policies create, it has a cost, a really high one. It's the cost of trust, the cost of morale. It's a rot that starts from the inside out, often long before anyone at the top even has a clue something is wrong. Which leaves us with a much tougher, much more important question. We have to stop just asking, how do we raise awareness? We need to be asking this. When you change the words, but the deep-seated need for structure and hierarchy is still there, what is it that keeps that old system alive? And how do we actually design policies for that reality?